Snow days are the best days. Like, really, today is great. My last 2 days have really just consisted of me sitting around the house and alternating, like, sleeping, playing the Switch, eating, and playing Magic. Life's pretty good right now. Really relaxed. Also, not at all going to think about what this does to my lesson plans at all. I'll show up to work and figure out what all's gonna happen as soon as I get school back, which is maybe tomorrow. But I might end up with a delay tomorrow as well. It's still like very cold here, and it got warm enough for most of the snow to melt, and now it's in the process of like refreezing and melting and refreezing. So it's interesting. Yeah, don't get used to these midday streams because like they're not gonna keep happening. But when I got snow days, what else do you want me to do other than just play Magic? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site dedicated to legacy death and taxes. Today we're playing something kind of cool. So I've had a series of snow days here, and yesterday at the end of the stream, Bear with Two Guns offered to donate to get me to stream again today. So this is a cool deck list. It's essentially blue-white Stoneblade, but also featuring Palace Jailer. And I think this is a neat idea. So one of the things historically that Stoneblade has been good at doing is interacting early and often. So if we look at the one-drop spells here, we've got like 4 Swords of Plowshares for the creature deck, and then we have 4 additional counter spells, a split of Spell Pierce and Spell Snare. So you have a little bit of early interaction, which you will get to rebuy with Snapcaster, and it also gets to like rebuy all this good stuff too. And the nice thing is that if you're using a whole bunch of these early interactive cards, your curve toppers like Palace Jailer and Jace can make you go and refuel. So, so it's like Miracles, but without most of the cards that makes Miracles good. I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I 100% see where you're coming from. So in Miracles, you get to abuse powerful win conditions like Monastery Mentor and Entreat the Angels to turn the corner on games very quickly, whereas Stoneblade tends to like hunt and peck a little bit more for damage, and you get things like the Stoneforge Mystic package to get equipment, True Name to just be a very difficult to answer threat, and just Batterskull as sort of a really annoying thing, endgame to go and grind your opponents out with. I mean, you can just write something like Overvoltage says, and then that, because like that is a good quote to add. So some of the other sort of like objective power from this deck comes on the back of Back to Basics, which is just a crippling card against your sort of like Eldrazi and Cloudpost type decks that are running rampant right now. I do worry that this deck has like a tad too many Tundras to be playing double Back to Basics, but we'll see whether or not that is actually true. So just running through the sideboard real quick, a lot of the stuff that's here is kind of stock. There's a couple things that are sort of unusual. Number one, this only has 2 pieces of equipment in the main deck, you know, we're playing these Palace Jailers, so we have to make room somewhere. So the Jitte got forced to the sideboard. Number 2, there's this kind of like weird Celestial Purge. There's a lot of like Lilianas and such running around, and this can also like tag something like Grizzlebrand if you're in a pinch. So it's probably not bad. Otherwise, the Lyra Dawnbringer is kind of spicy, but I'm not actually sure it's good. Let me rephrase. I'm not sure that it's actually better than Baneslayer Angel. So I think the upside of being able to protect your Lyra with your Caracas is lower than the downside of your opponent bouncing your Lyra. So I think the legendary status is a liability for a 5-drop. And I'm also potentially convinced that the upside of protection from demons and dragons might be better with Baneslayer Angel. But I'm willing to try this out. There's some like minor Caracas synergy in this deck. I have one of them. And like you can use it to bounce your Venser, your Vendilion Clicks, which are in the sideboard, and the Lyra. Also Gideon, if you animate that, you know, you can theoretically, you know, attack with Gideon, bounce it, redeploy, make a token, and herpa-derpa-derpa-derpa-derp. Folks, it's going well. You know, I'm on snow day number 2 here, and I took off Friday for SCG Con. So this is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. This is essentially like day 5 of weekend for me. So no complaints here. Oh, Lord Darkview, that is a shame. But when you watch the replay, it is the explanation that I just did. I assume it just took you a while to write that comment. (3-0) into 3-4 the challenges we always take each other. That happens sometimes. You know, everyone's had that event where, you know, you're running hot, you start like 3-0 or 4-0, and then you fail to cash, and it's just like, what happened? The wheels just fell off the bus there. The only other thing I want to do before I start is just kind of compare this to the last Stoneblade list that I played. So this was a blue-white Stoneblade list that I played post, like Deathrite Shaman being out of the format. And this is kind of similar to where I'm at now in terms of the main deck. You know, minus the Palace Jailer. I think if we got rid of, like, 1 Palace Jailer for 1 EE, and then I've got like 2 Spell Snares over like 1 Stoneforge and a Jitte, and then 1 True Name versus a Sword of Fire and Ice. The main deck's the same. And the sideboard's relatively similar as well. Note here that I had Baneslayer versus Lyra, and a little more Graveyard Hate because that was super popular at the time. Alright, so let's kind of just go into it and see where this Palace Jailer goes. Regular followers of the stream know I am just a huge fan of Palace Jailer. That card can do some very dirty things to games of Magic. So our league yesterday was a 4-1 with sort of like Moon Stompy, Red Prison, whatever you want to call it, with our only loss being to a very good player on Reanimator. Jailer Blade. Let's battle. Yeah, Bob's deck is really good. I actually talked to him a little bit about that, as well as some other things. I'm going to keep this. I think it's a fine hand. It has a lot of potential. I don't really know what it's doing yet. I know in the past my opponent has played Death and Taxes. I recognize their username. This isn't going to be a back to basics matchup, so it's fine to just fetch Tundra here. Well, it's about as good as it's going to get. So put back, I guess, Brainstorm, Force. My opponent will take nothing. I'll draw Force. And then Stoneforge for Batterskull. Yeah. You know, Brainstorm doing its work as a great unfair magic card. Alright, well, that Duress gets to take the Force. Although, it may take the Batterskull. Who knows? Oh, is my opponent actually Storm and not Reanimator? Neat. Then that means that, like, this Batterskull is actually good. So, if this resolves, my opponent will probably just cast an Ad Nauseam. Though they could empty. If they empty, I will probably just beat that out with Batterskull, though. I'm just wondering if I'm supposed to, like, brainstorm and try to find one of the 3 Force of Wills here. I don't think I do. I think I'll let them cast the Ad Nauseam so that that's not in deck, if that's their plan. My opponent definitely made an error. They have blue up, which means that if they don't find, like, a Petal or a Mox to get started, they're in trouble. Clear error. So the only awkward thing about this is that If I whiff on this Brainstorm and I don't find a force, my opponent can just take my Batterskull with a discard spell. But I don't need to worry about that. Yeah, and now this game's over. You know, the combo player with 0 cards left in hand versus like Batterskull, Palace Jailer, Snapcaster Mage. Yeah, that's true. I could, like, if I whiffed on the Brainstorm, I would have just hit Batterskull on top of my library. Alright, so playing this combo, probably go Clicks in, Flusterstorm, Surgical in. We could, I guess, consider something like Disenchant to just hit out artifact mana that's played out, although that's kind of sketchy. We'll start by removing all of our copies of Swords to Plowshares. Needle for LED, that'll get them. Yeah, Surgical is only meh. I guess Supreme Verdict is still fine for Goblins, just to have an out to it. Council's Judgment's pretty weak. Back to Basics is also pretty weak, though. No, I'm probably going to keep True Name Nemesis in, like, just for the fact that it is a blue card that will pitch to Force of Will. Verdict's not really fast enough if they just, like, go off on turn 1, but if you have, like, back and forth for a couple of turns, it can be fast enough. It's also just blue and pitches to Force, right? So, like, I don't really want to be playing any of these cards. But I'm probably going to have to play one Back to Basics. Like, it's either, like, one Back to Basics, or I play, like, Jitte, or just, like, Containment Priest as a 2-2 or something like that. Yeah, so in this matchup, they'd much, much, much rather, like, cast a Duress first, right? Before trying to go off. This is fine. I kind of feel like I'm missing the Meddling Mages that I had in my sideboard before. Because, like, that would help fill the slots that I'm missing now. This Back to Basics is super medium. This deck is, like, surprisingly close to mono blue, like, the more that I look at it. Like, yeah, we've got a couple of Stoneforges and such, but we're very, very heavy on the blue side. God, I wish that was not Caracas. I'm going to mulligan this one. I don't think I want the second Brainstorm. I'm just kind of worried about getting locked. Ooh. I will 100% take my opponent missing land drops. Although that does mean they just have a bunch of gas. I'm going to go ahead and Brainstorm to just try to make sure I can keep hitting land drops. Great. So I can't really tap out for True Name Nemesis right now. I will probably just die if I do that. So I'm gonna only get rid of one of these. I think I'm gonna get rid of True Name. I just don't feel safe tapping out yet. Or maybe I'm supposed to get rid of Jace, even though it's a better card, just because, like, playing True Name... Nah, if I can find a force, just playing Jace is sweet. I'll get rid of True Name. And I'm just gonna pass. I do have to, like, be mindful of things, like end of turn. Like, Rit ad nause as the bait, and then try to go off a second time. Yeah, the True Name is not great here. Vendilion Click would be far, far superior. Need to get some pressure in play. Yep, that's fine. You can duress me. I accept that. Even if my opponent takes a Flusterstorm, I still have, like, Spell Snare for a critical 2-drop, or just Brainstorm into another spell. All this is still fine. Snow Day's going great. Ad nausea. I will Brainstorm in response to that. Alright, we did not find what I was looking for. So... I'm going to put back True Name followed by Supreme Verdict. I'm hiding my Supreme Verdict so that if my opponent makes goblins, I can 100% deal with them. Feel like I should just be dead. Now my opponent can just cast Tendrils. Thalia would have been pretty okay. Yeah, like, I'm definitely missing the meddling mages that I had in, like, the sideboard that I was playing post Deathrite Shaman banning. Like, just because, like, that's an early threat I can stick that is relatively safe to tap out for. And I'm kind of missing that here. Like, I'm awkwardly playing this back to basics, which I really don't want to be playing, but there's kind of nothing that's particularly better. Although, honestly, like, maybe just Containment Priest as a flash creature, just a flash 2/2, is better than back to basics is. Like, I don't feel super safe tapping out for that. I also don't love True Name, but, like, again, it's blue, it pitches to Force of Will. I think this hand's too fair. I'm going to mulligan this one. Like, it has lands and spells, but it's not the right mix of stuff that I really want for this matchup, and I have no way to fix it. This hand's better. I'll put that Spell Pierce on top. I guess this is fine. So that'll go on bottom. Spell Pierce will go on top, and I'll draw Island. This kind of means that I might need to just, like, shuffle with Stoneforge next turn and tap out. I've still got Force of Will, which is fine, but I really do not want to draw that Batterskull. There is some risk associated with this play if my opponent can go discard spell into go off. But I just lose so much value. If I just draw Batterskull. If I make it past this turn, though, I'll more or less have the game knocked off. Batterskull will just, like, shut off the tokens route, and then I'll have double counterspell. Really triple, because I'll have, like, Pierce, Snapcaster Pierce, as well as Force of Will, though maybe not all of them in any given turn. My opponent duresses me or equivalent, I will put in my Batter Skull. I don't want to lose that to a discard spell. Obviously, there's a huge difference between having 5 damage a turn as a clock and 1 damage a turn as a clock. So now I'm going to have Pierce, Snapcaster Pierce up, as well as Force of Will in case of an emergency. Opponent's just discarding, which is interesting to me. I really wanted to draw a blue card rather than a land in the last 2 turns here. My Spell Pierce gets worse if I just ignore this. So now I can Snapcaster Pierce the Duress and leave myself with Hardcast Force of Will as disruption for the next turn. So I could Snapcaster, Ponder, find sword, put sword in, not equip sword. I should probably Snapcaster Ponder anyway. Maybe not. Because this can leave up like Hardcast Force of Will or Force Pitch Snapcaster. I don't know. If I ponder and I don't find a blue card, I might just like accidentally die. I'm going to leave up Hardcast Force. I will play out my planes so I don't have to fetch, though. Alright. So I'm just going to check the graveyard for a Past in Flames real quick. There's not a Past in Flames, so we've just got this. So I wouldn't force a 1-mana ritual there. If my opponent had started off their turn with like a Cabal ritual, I might have forced that because it might have been more difficult for them to just go off from like no starting mana. But like say they have 2 Dark Rituals and then they go like, you know, tap 1 mana Dark Ritual, I counter that, and then they go tap second land Dark Ritual and they go. That's super awkward. Alright, going into round 2. Let's battle. Playing against Aaron Relentless, who has played a decent amount of D&T in the past. Though not recently. Last finish was with Reanimator, but before that, a bunch of Delver decks. I want to keep this. Like, we've got a Ponder to sculpt it into whatever we need. Looks like it's going to be versus D&T. This Ponder is going to need to do some work. Fudge. Well, we have a lot of bricks, folks. Hmm. Hmm. Well, since my opponent has played out 2 non-plains lands, that helps a lot. It's fine. It's fine. No, we're not going to game 2. Like, I can still very much win this one. Back to basics is going to be amazing here. Opponent playing that now to play around Vendilion Click. So, like, all I really need to do is draw something like, say, Palace Jailer, or Swords to Plowshares, or True Name Nemesis, and I can do a lot of work here, right? So, like, though my opponent has me on a 4-turn clock with this Stoneforge alone, they're not being left with a ton of mana. Hey, see, here we go. We're off to a start now. Now I just have to, like, answer the board, and I'm okay. Yeah, like a jailer on this board would pretty much be lights out. However, instead of a jailer, we get all these lands. All of them. Ugh. And now, like, I need to hold this back so my opponent can't just, like, attack in with both of their creatures. We lost this one to the variance that is Magic. You know, we had a land-heavy opener, hit lands off the ponder, shuffled off the ponder, hit lands after the ponder. It is what it is. I don't know that I would have committed another creature to the board if I were the opponent. Something like Supreme Verdict would be very punishing. It's almost good enough. So I can Stoneforge for Jitte and cast Jitte and then die. If my opponent didn't have the Mom, then I could like chump block for a turn and get myself back in it. Womp womp. So close. So close. Actually, I can just see whether or not they actually go for the Protect. Like I can make them take the winning line. My opponent sent me a message. How do I see my messages now? How do I do this? Oh, I see. Alright, so now my opponent doesn't even need to be risky about it. They've just got it. Alright. So probably Jitte, Disenchant. I'll probably play Containment Priest and Pithing Needle. Gideon probably a consideration as well. Vendilion Click, not outside of the realm of possibility. This was a Baneslayer, I might play it, but probably not here. So I will probably just play out something closer to a tap-out control deck and not try to counter things so much. Spell Pierce is relatively weak. I'll cut that. I could remove my Force of Wills and then just try to play an attrition-based game with these cards. That would leave me with just Spell Snares as counter magic, which they're very, very strong, and I think I'd be okay with that. Note that, like, despite the fact that my opponent is playing a very basic land-heavy deck, Back to Basics is still quite good against them, so I probably won't be cutting that. Legendary status. So my opponent is going to have 2 to 3 Caracas, and so just like playing a 5-drop that just would get bounced by one of their utility lands is really rough. Yeah. I do sort of wonder if Back to Basics is as good in this deck as it is versus Miracles in this matchup in particular. Maybe I'm supposed to trim 1. Because I don't know what else I would cut, and I think I want all of these cards. Like, Containment Priest helps the Aether Vial situation if I'm cutting my Force of Wills so that I can't as frequently answer that with consistency. I need more mana. This'll do, although I don't have a source of basic white. I'd much rather find a white fetch than a Tundra. Although if I keep this, I can 100% play True Name Nemesis on turn 3. Because I can just play, like, Island Pass, Tarn Pass, fetch, Tundra, play True Name, and then, like, play around Wasteland to a certain degree. I'll keep it. So I can either disenchant this Vial, or I can just play out a Containment Priest. My opponent boards like I do for Stoneblade. They actually cut most or all of their creature-based removal, so the Containment Priest is probably pretty safe to just throw in play. So I think I will do so. We could get cute and, like, try to wait and do this when they activate the Aether Vial. Strong play. Like, if I wait on this Containment Priest to, like, say they have a Mother of Runes, when I go to cast the Containment Priest, they would be able to vial that in. Double Mom. That is a lot of Mom. Oh, hey, Arkin, welcome. These Moms are annoying. I'm debating whether or not I want to offer the trade of, like, the 2-for-1 Containment Priest for this. I think I do. And if my opponent double blocks, I'll probably disenchant the Vial. Opponent representing the fact that they understand what I'm offering. And now I'll just play True Name. I'm in a pretty good position. It felt like my opponent kept a hand that was relatively reliant on Ether Vial for like objective, like out of the gates tempo. So the priest is doing some work. If they Council's Judgment, they probably have to get like the True Name rather than remove the Containment Priest. Alright, opponent getting a Stoneforge. I don't really care about that. I've got the Disenchant to have that covered. Let's just try to find some more land here. Or not. Do I want to play the Palace Jailer game? Don't think I do. I used the default whatever card hoarder gave me. So I'm going to put back Jailer. 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 Okay. And I guess Venser. Venser's considerably less good when my opponent has Mom, so I can't just bounce their creatures for huge value. I would love to find Fetch land as that third card down. Come on, land. Great, and then now I like Pithing Needle for Mom, too. That is strong. Alright, so I'm going to put back one land. And I'll put the Pithing Needle on top. Play out Flooded Strand. Crash in with Snapcaster, or with True Name. And if I feel like I need the Pithing Needle, I will draw it. If I feel like I don't need it, I'll shuffle it away. Yeah, Arkin, I had a blast on that stream. Like, we played against infinite amount of posts, which, like, was not a good place to be as a D&T player, but it is what it is. Ugh. So I know there's one land on top of my library, and then I don't know anything beyond that. I'm fine with just, like, Pithing Needling Sword of Fire and Ice. Though I will start this turn with a Brainstorm and kind of sculpt out what I'm doing here. There's that Palace Jailer again. I don't think I want to play that game. put back Jailer and land. Adam Morgan, thank you very much for throwing your Twitch Prime money this way this month. I appreciate your support. So I think I'm actually just going to like Pithing Needle Mother of Runes here to stop any shenanigans. So at this exact moment, I'm conceptualizing myself as a tempo deck, right? I just need to get 4 hits in with this True Name Nemesis before something goes wrong. That can't be countered, so that does stop the Spell Snare. It also will stop the Disenchant for this turn, though it's live on the following turns. Alright, we locked that one up pretty easily, but now we do have to go to a game 3. That game played out sort of awkwardly, where because I had the Tundra early on and I was land light, I didn't have the luxury of fetching a bunch of basic lands. So maybe I'm supposed to do a swap like this in case that same scenario happens again. Like, I know I shuffled away the Palace Jailer multiple times in that game, but it is a quite powerful card if I can get it going. Maybe when I'm on the draw, though, I should trim one and just play another click. I could see that being the case. Although Click being slightly awkward in the face of Caracas. It's a weird dance. Here's another one of those hands that doesn't play well against Wasteland, and like Back to Basics would be very bad with this hand. I don't think you can play Back to Basics if you want to play 3 Tundras like this. I think that would be one of the first changes I'd make to the deck list moving forward, is I'd drop one of the Tundras. So I will disenchant that Vial on my turn too. No question there. Alright, well now I can't just disenchant this on turn 2, unfortunately. So I'll be playing Stoneforge on turn 2 instead. I'll have to shuffle away one of these. Probably Vendilion Click in the face of my opponent's Caracas. So with the first one of these, I'm going to go ahead and fetch Batterskull because it will halt my opponent's early aggression. I'm very aware that like Jitte is an insane card against D&T, but if I just get like Jitte on this board, the Thalia gums it up. And I might not actually get anywhere, especially considering that like more idiots are going to come in off this file. Ugh. Well, all right. Yes. If I still have my disenchant in hand, I may disenchant that vial before it ticks up to 3, especially if my opponent misses a land drop. My opponent's going to have some tough choices here. So he's opting to go and take my Ether Vial removal spell. Now what? Swords to Plowshares, the Stoneforge. Well, this is great. Not now, but great later. So next turn, Council's Judgment can be a removal spell for Freebooter, or Vial, or Thalia. I can just, like, stick a Jitte in play, but I don't really want my opponent to say Council's Judgment in a way. This is probably a situation where I'll brainstorm, intending on getting rid of this Batterskull, and then maybe trying to find a fetch this turn. Thalia is putting in a lot of work here. These are decent Magic the Gathering cards. So I'm really far away from hardcasting a Batterskull, so I'll put that back. And I'll put back one of these lands. True Name Nemesis would be a sick draw. Stoneforge Mystic would be fine. Supreme Verdict now would be okay. Swords of Plowshares is good this turn, and then weak after that. It's going to be a Flicker Wisp reset the freebooter. So they have options. I assume my Council's Judgment goes bye-bye. Alright, so do I want to Sculpt with Brainstorm or just dig for a specific card? Kind of want to dig for a specific card. I can find Swords to Plowshares this turn to remove a body before Mom gets online. Otherwise, I can try to find, like, Supreme Verdict to set up for next turn. Okay, so what happens if I Swords to Plowshares? I could Swords to Plowshares the Flicker Wisp to reduce my clock to 3 a turn. Then I could play like Jace, Fate Seal up to 5, and unless my opponent plays out another creature, that's okay. I guess of this, I only have to take the Swords to Plowshares. Like, I can take Swords to Plowshares and then shuffle these other ones away. I don't think I can really just afford to remove the Mom. I'll be on a 3-turn clock if I just remove Flicker Wisp. Or, sorry, if I remove Flicker Wisp, I'm on a 3-turn clock. If I remove Mom, I'm on... Sorry, I've said this wrong like 3 times. If I remove this, this is 3 damage a turn, 5-turn clock. If I remove this, it's 6 damage a turn, 3-turn clock. I guess I could also remove Freebooter. So I can remove Freebooter, take 5 this turn, go down to 9, then Council's Judgment away one of the other creatures. I'd take 2 more damage in the short term, but I'd have another long-term answer to a creature. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, I think we're playing against almost mono-white D&T. I suspect there's just some sideboard hate bears that are black. Although, like, there could be, like, Bobs and Pontiffs in there as well. Okay, so here's fetch lands. Oh, this is actually really good. So I can cast Council Judgment for 4 mana. Or I could just, like, play out Stoneforge this turn, get Batterskull. Alright, if I cast Council Judgment, I remove Flicker Wisp, and then I'm just taking 2 a turn. And then I'm on a 5-turn clock again, which Stoneforge Mystic will beat out. Note, it doesn't really make a ton of sense to go for either Bomb or Thalia here. Like, the Thalia plus Caracas combo is pretty well protected as is. I'm just kind of trying to stabilize the life total here, and I'm very close to doing so. Nokioni88, thank you very much for following. I appreciate your support. I hope you're enjoying the content here. So to minimize shenanigans, I'm going to go ahead and disenchant this now. Actually, maybe I won't. At my end step here, I'm going to destroy this. And if they have like a Flicker Wisp here, it's slightly annoying. All right, Swords to Plowshares on my idiot. That's fine. I just don't want to get got by any end of turn creatures. All right. That's kind of irrelevant. So I'm 1 mana off from just casting my Batterskull. I can try to brainstorm for like another Stoneforge, but I think I'm just going to play Jace. A Fate Seal me. Snapcaster finds like Snapcaster gets Swords to Plowshares. No, that can stay. Neat. So put back Snapcaster. Or no, I'll keep Snapcaster. I'll put back 1 piece of equipment. And I guess. No, I'll put back 2 pieces of equipment. And then I can play out Stoneforge Mystic. Search for that Batter Skull. And now, hopefully, this is enough to stabilize. Now I need to take the mom off the table. I've got Swords, Snap, Swords to do that. My opponent says, not sure if you shuffled away your other disenchant. So I can flash in Snapcaster Mage, target Swords to Plowshares, block with both of my creatures, and then if my opponent goes to protects, I Swords. Actually, I don't think I want to do that. I forgot my opponent has Caracas. We're just going to chump with Snapcaster Mage. Gain 2 life. Geez, another mom is rough. So now I have either Batter Skull or Venser, or Disenchant available. Not all three, but one of them. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, leaving 2 mana up. Alright, I've probably turned the corner on this one. Now I'll end of turn put in Jitte, and then have like Jitte Stoneforge shenanigans. I need to dodge like a Council's Judgment or a Flicker Wisp or a Swords this turn. Alright, now the game's over. I bounced Thalia. Oh, did my opponent actually have Flicker Wisp? Sanctum Prelate. Alright, that's not that big of a deal. On 2. I still don't think I care. Alright, Moto, this is not the time to lag. Oh my god, why? Oh shit, it's protected. Shit, 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 shit. Note I have 11 seconds on clock here. I know that I'm not playing optimally. I'm just trying not to time out. Alright, well that's unfortunate. That's one I would have won if I wasn't streaming. It's also one I would have won if I would have realized just a few seconds sooner that it had pro blue from the sword, but I was kind of in a rush. Oh, I'm not blaming chat. Like, you know, I took the lines that I did. Just you slow down a lot when you're talking. But that's an effective win there. There's no way my opponent is coming back from that many Jitte counters plus active Jace plus disenchant. Yeah, so if we 4-1, it feels bad. So for anyone who tuned in during that grueling round, hello, my name is Phil Gallagher. I run Thraben University, a site for legacy death and taxes. Today we are playing with Blue-White Stoneblade featuring Palace Jailer. We're currently 1-1, though certainly 2-0 in spirit. Yeah, really not liking Tundra 3 in this list. Tundra 3 should probably be Plains number 3. If this wants to, like, try to run back to basics. In both of those games versus D&T, like, I had to, like, take risky fetches on Tundra just kind of with how my mana broke down. Oh yeah, like these sorts of lists are starting points for experimentation, right? Like I like most of the shell. It's similar to what I've played in the past. As of right now, my conceptual thoughts are one of these should be a Plains, and this Venser should probably just be one other early interactive spell. I've drawn this a couple of times. I just wonder if that should be, say, an EE or something like that. That's just interactive earlier, and that can be, or maybe something that can be bought back with Snapcaster. Look, I mean, I've had the love affair with Venser too, right? But like, if you're playing back to basics with your Caracas, you don't necessarily get the Venser Caracas lock. That's just like so sweet. So our opponent was last seen on Reanimator. I have a Spell Snare for a 2-mana reanimation spell. And a Snapcaster to buy it back. So I guess I'll keep this one. But if they go off on turn 1, or if they go off on turn 2 with a discard spell to lead, I'm not going anywhere. Oh, opponent's going now. Unspun Threads, thank you very much for following. I hope you are enjoying the content. So luckily, my opponent only gets to draw 7. Isn't that great, chat? If my opponent uses a discard spell on me, I will probably concede. Like, in order to win this, I need to rip my 1 of Caracas and then deal with the rest of their hand as well. I just think, like, the information of what deck I'm playing being hidden is more important than, like, my super fringe chances of winning this game. All right. So we'll essentially bring in anything that's interactive early. Disenchant also not outside of the realm of possibility for Animate Dead. Pithing Needle for Grizzlebrand is maybe medium. The rest of this stuff's okay. Purge is a removal spell that can actually, like, hit a Grizzlebrand somewhat profitably. So let's figure out what I want to cut, and then we'll go from there. So back to basics seems terrible. I don't really want to tap out for a True Name Nemesis. Swords of Plowshares is kind of bad. Like, if you use that to hit a Grizzlebrand, the damage is already probably done. Supreme Verdict is an out to something like Archetype of Endurance, so as awkward as it is to keep a 4-mana removal spell in, I probably need to do so. I don't know. Like, if I don't play this, then my only out to an Archetype of Endurance is Council's Judgment. Hello, hello, welcome. So I'm just gonna, like, start kind of talking to myself about what I could, like, board out. I honestly think Venser's probably too slow. And I kind of want to trim this. Maybe I ignore Archetype of Endurance just because, like, it's so bad versus any other reanimated target. It's just terribly slow. And then maybe I'm supposed to, like, trim my sword, because I really just want to get Batterskull. The Batterskull is a good enough clock on its own where that's fine. Something approximating this is probably okay. I don't feel super good about my chances. I'm a little lighter on Graveyard Hate than I might want to be. That being said, a Surgical Extraction double Force of Will hand is pretty baller. Let's see if we can still find a way to lose, though. think I will ponder. Good lord. Yeah, you can Thoughtseize me. I'm not willing to burn 2 of my cards to a Thoughtseize. Taking the ponder. Okay. I am in no hurry here. Yeah, Tommy, I stream Legacy 3 days a week on average, although it's probably going to be closer to 5 this week, just kind of due to the nature of Roanoke getting just pounded by snow this week. Sure, you can duress me. There's still all this stuff. See, the best part is that I'm still going to have, like, Snapcaster Surgical available. I may just play out Snapcaster as a just creature to start dealing damage. Sure, you can duress me. Tommy Clean Socks, thank you very much for following. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of today's stream. So this is Blue-White Stoneblade featuring Palace Jailer. Since I have no manipulation at all, and no guarantee of when I'm going to be able to, like, do anything profitable, I'm just going to Thoughtseize and get a feel for my opponent's hand. Or, sorry, Surgical Extraction Thoughtseize, get a feel for my opponent's hand. This will also let us know how our opponent has sideboarded. Oh, and we do get one. All right. So opponent's bottleneck is currently mana. So Pack Rat would be an annoyance. That's something that would have to get forced. So multiple Pack Rats, the Massacre Worm, Grave Titan, Grizzlebrand. My opponent is the mono black version, not black red. So we're actually just most scared of my opponent finding a land. Now we're not scared. Well, opponent just kind of like boarded blindly, right? Like they did not know what deck we were on. So maybe they were just most scared of it being the mirror. And if they were wrong, it's a cantrip. If opponent plays Pack Rat, I don't care if I draw a land. But unfortunately, I probably need to Force of Will this. And then if they animate Dead it, then hopefully I'll have drawn a land so that I can just Council Judgment it away that time. But I think it's too risky to just let this go and put a fatty into Graveyard. I don't think I want to risk it in this situation. So, like, now if my opponent just reanimates the Pack Rat, I Council Judgment it, and I'm in a fantastic position. This is an awkward duress for my opponent, because they probably need to just take the Council Judgment. But if they have, like, a follow-up reanimation spell or something, then, like, the Palace Jailer can potentially answer it. And if they don't do anything else this turn, then if I draw a blue card, then Force of Will answers their next play as well. Alright, reanimate targeting Pack Rat. I feel like my draws have been okay. Like, obviously there was that one game where we went to, like, Flood City, USA. But, like, in this game, for example, everything seems okay. So, like, if I draw a land, I'm just going to take over this game. So that Nihil Spellbomb on the other side of the table is going to prevent me from pondering. And my opponent is going to go discard Grave Titan with Pack Rat, then try to animate Dead it. Let's see if they'll trade a rat token for my Snapcaster. I don't think so, but they might. So I might have the win on board. We'll see. If my opponent attacks in for 4 with the Pack Rats and then Animate Dead's Grave Titan, I'll Force of Will that. And I'm done. Okay, so they did it pre-combat. So how do I want to do this? I can try to Snapcaster Spell Snare. Force my opponent to crack the Spell Bomb. And then have 2 bodies in play and set up a Palace Jailer kill. It's a little aggressive, but I think I like it. Like, I don't think I need, like, Jace and Palace Jailer in hand, for example. And we're going to let this Spell Bomb trigger resolve so that my Force of Will be in the graveyard when this is all said and done. Not that I'm likely to ever, like, Snapcaster 1 back, but having it in the graveyard is just better than not. So now drawing a land here would be stellar. Because I draw a land, get rid of the Pack Rat token, attack in with both creatures, make the chump block just 100% guaranteed to have to do it or they die. Yep. There we go. There's the luck we needed in the earlier turns. Actually, I guess I should exile this one. So this isn't in the graveyard. They would come back if they become the Monarch. But, like, for example, they could reanimate Pack Rat to buy some time. I'm taking the original so that they can't like reanimate it as a chump blocker. Note that opponent producing a Grave Titan here would be pretty okay. Luckily, they did not, and we get to go to game 3. Unfortunately, my opponent will now know how to sideboard properly. So do I want to change anything, knowing that they are on mono black Reanimator versus red black Reanimator? If Grave Titan is a big part of their plan, I kind of want Supreme Verdicts back in. And if Pack Rat is a part of their plan, then more answers to that, like Swords to Plowshares and like Swords to Plowshares and Pithing Needle might be okay. So I'm going to think about boarding in these cards. No. So my opponent, for my threat base, they have 3 Grave Titans, 1 Grizzlebrand, 2 Massacre Worms, 4 Grave Titans, and then 1 Ashen Rider. So I think I'll cut 1 more Stoneforge Mystic. Maybe not Needle. So like if they play Pack Rat, I guess I'd rather have Swords to Plowshares because like this can also answer a Grave Titan, and then I can just clean up the tokens with whatever. I mean, Palace Jailer is an answer to every creature, theoretically, right? Like, slightly awkward against Grave Titan, but it answers a Grizzlebrand, an Ashen Rider, a Massacre Worm, whatever. Maybe I do trim 1, though. Like, tapping out's always scary. I don't know what the last cut is. Maybe Council Judgment is too slow. And they don't have anything that's hexproof as a target. This hand is amazing. I have 2 pieces of Graveyard Hate, 2 counterspells, and then Palace Jailer for endgame. We couldn't ask for too much better here. Good luck, opponent. If they have something like a Pack Rat, they should probably just take the Spell Snare and try to ride Pack Rat to victory. But if they don't have Pack Rat, well, life's hard. No. Here's the opponent's deck as of last game. They perhaps did not sideboard, or maybe sideboarded incorrectly, because they did not know what deck I was on. Yes, opponent had 2 collective brutalities. Alright, opponent has taken Containment Priest. I'm kind of glad they didn't take my Jailer, because if they, like, took my Jailer and, like, reanimated that, it'd be super awkward, and I'd have to, like, surgical my Jailer or something. Oh, God. Second Priest. So good, chat. Well, Flusterstorm and Spell Snare don't answer that. So that occurs. Alright, so I guess I'll discard Jailer. Really far off from casting it. So I think I'm going to cast my Containment Priest and send it at Lily, and then hope to draw like a Snapcaster Mage or something else that I can just like burn to the Lily. I think if I just let this tick up, it's just going to destroy my Stellar hand. So I want this land for sure. Beyond that, I'm not exactly sure. I'll probably pitch 1 land and Fluster. Rough. So I guess at this point, I'm just hoping to draw like a Swords to Plowshares to take the Grave Titan off the table, and then go from there. It's not a great place to be in. I'll get rid of Spell Snare since it's relatively narrow. And I'll save Snapcaster to go for a Snapcaster Brainstorm. Or I can just Ponder. So I could just take the other Ponder and then look 1 deeper. I can't. I could Surgical myself just as a shuffle and then take the other Ponder so I can look at 4 fresh cards. That's a line. Or I can just like shuffle this, try to get lucky. I think I need to answer this Grave Titan this turn, or I'm gonna die. The zombies are still a problem after that. So I just won't draw that. I can leave the one in the graveyard. That's fine. I'll ponder again. Rough. Alright, so now I'm drawing towards Verdict. The issue being that Liliana will still be a problem. I was looking to rip something out of my deck, though, True Nightmare. Okay. So I can just chump block this Grave Titan, draw a Supreme Verdict off the top, wipe the board, and then deal with the Lily after. And then hope they don't have any reanimation spells ever. I don't think I can take 6. That put me down to 7, and then these would just clean me up. Even if I draw something like a Swords to Plowshares to buy me time. Alright. Opponent has it all here. So I can ponder and try to get exactly like Swords to Plowshare Supreme Verdict as a set of 2 cards. But everything's real slim now. So our opening hand was pretty stellar. But our opponent wiggled through. You know, so it goes. All right. Once more, going back in with Blue-White Stoneblade. Playing against Spatula of the Ages. Here's an interesting name. Well, my opponent has a bunch of results with Enchantress. I don't know necessarily that they are playing that. I will keep a hand that has a bunch of brainstorms to figure out whatever we need to do for the matchup. Alright, it is indeed Enchantress. So, unless my opponent is playing the weird back to basics version that I streamed with the other day, which I find pretty unlikely, I don't really get punished for fetching Tundra. We're gonna shuffle those. While the island is nice, everything else that's there is not what I want to see. I'm really looking for a fetch land there. Ugh. Do I want to brainstorm again to see if the third card down is exactly Force of Will? Not really. Like that's going to be a 3 and 46 shot. We're just going to let that go. It's unfortunate, but it kind of is what it is. Enchantress, historically speaking, pretty good against fair blue decks, by the way. In case anyone hasn't been on the wrong side of this before. I can't really interact with their enchantments, so they're just basically there forever unless I draw Council's Judgment. So now they're essentially just trying to goldfish me. Well, how am I winning this game? This was a donation deck list, and it was put together relatively quickly. I don't know how much thought went into it. The thought was probably, you know, 2 pieces of equipment in the main are what's necessary. I don't know that a considerable amount of thought went into which one should be in the main deck. All right, let's get rid of our 4-drops. I'm going to win this game on the back of aggression if I win this game. So I'm probably just going to like shuffle away those cards with this Ponder. Back to basics, not really stellar here. Well, Elephant Grass is pretty good against Germ Token. Ugh, that's another Enchantress. So I guess when I put back Palace Jailer and Supreme Verdict, I could have kept Supreme Verdict in hand to cut down on the drawing, but one Enchantress effect is still pretty bad. But 3 is probably unbeatable. I'll stay the course for another turn or two. But I think I'm done. Like, I don't even know what I'm digging for, really. It's not that. So I guess I'll brainstorm. I can put back to basics since it isn't really going to do much here. If my opponent starts drawing a bunch of cards and gets a Serra Sanctum, they can just find another pretty easily. It is usually Emrakul. So you go, you get a billion mana, and then you just cast an Emrakul and win. So Serra's Sanctum taps for 1 for each enchantment you control. So right now it'd be 6, right? So that makes just like actually hardcasting an Emrakul not all that difficult after a couple of turns of setup. Otherwise, there's other alternate win conditions, such as Sigil of the Empty Throne. There's also a version that runs around playing Rest in Peace, as well as Helm of Obedience. What is this? You have Estrid's Invocation. Enter the battlefield as a copy of any enchantment you control, except it has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile this enchantment. Ah! Yeah, that can't resolve. So I've gained a useful piece of information by playing out the game a little bit longer. I do kind of want to see what my opponent's kill is, just to confirm. So I can, like, Snapcaster Ponder, Snapcaster Brainstorm. I could just, like, Palace Jailer and start drawing some cards myself. And then maybe my opponent drops the Elephant Grass at some point, and I can actually attack in for a profitable amount. Oh god, Ground Seal has text. I'm used to just completely ignoring that card. This is the first time I think I've ever seen Ground Seal do anything. So we got these sweet Snapcasters over here. So the elephant grasses are gone. That's good, right? Right? That surely doesn't mean terrible things are going to happen to me this turn. Alright, there's Estrid's Invocation, which will probably be another Enchantress's Presence. Oh, no, it's just a Wild Growth. Alright, is it Emrakul time? Please let it just be Emrakul time so I can concede. Noted. Okay. So there's solitary confinement. That now means I certainly can't win the game. Oh man, Estra's invocation is like kind of cute with solitary confinement, right? So you can like copy a solitary confinement, then bounce this one back to your hand, then turn it into something else, or like always have something that will let you draw cards. All right, my opponent is casting Living Wish. That should just get like it gets Caracas, which means they already have the Emrakul, and they can just like take infinite turns. All right, I've seen enough here. We're dead. Although if I draw a back to basics again and I keep this tapped, maybe I'm not dead. All right, opponent has Doomwake Giant in deck as well. Yeah, over 9,000 dead sounds about right. I'm with you there. All right, so sideboard options are not good. So I guess I can click away good cards. I can disenchant away a critical enchantment. Flusterstorm, not great. Surgical, not great. Pithing Needle can technically do things, but probably not great. I might just play these big stupid beaters just to like have more things that can win the game in my deck. Oh god, no, that's why you play Enchantress, right? It's to bully the blue decks that can't really like do anything about you. Alright. So Swords of Plowshares is unplayable. That needs to come out. Pierce is okay in the early game, though dead late game. Spell Snare can hit like Wishes and Enchantresses, that's probably fine. Back to Basics is probably bad as a whole. Like, our opponent plays a lot of basic lands, they're going to try to enchant basic lands, and even if I, like, keep a Serra's Sanctum tapped, like, what is that really accomplishing? I'll keep the Verdict because it can answer Enchantresses or, like, the random Doomwake Giants. Decks like Enchantress are why you have good... Oh, why it's good to have buys at GPs if you want to play blue decks. Agreed. And decks like Elves are why it's good to have buys if you're a D&T player. If I play this card, though, like my opponent can Living Wish for Caracas and bounce it. God, I wish this was Baneslayer. But whatever, this is what I'm doing. Ugh. This hand is already like a mulligan. Like, yes, we have a card that can interact with my opponent, but, like, I have no cantrips. I already have both of my pieces of equipment in hand, so this doesn't, like, effectively cantrip. I can't cast this Verdict. Ship it. Also ship this one, yeah. Ugh. Well, I think like a 2-land Stoneforge hand would be better than this, so... This is arguably the best hand so far. Ah. I don't think there's any world where that 7-card hand wins if my opponent has kept on 7. I mean, I guess I need to top this. So, my plan to win is my opponent never gets an Enchantress effect all game. I'm going to hold this Brainstorm for as long as possible, but the turn that they cast an Enchantress effect, I have to Brainstorm for force. What is this? Well, that's an Enchantress effect, so here we go. Yeah, absolute statements like always keep this hand if it can turn to this. Not really healthy statements. So the best possible world is my opponent not drawing any cards this turn, and then playing another Argothian Enchantress. That's the best world. Well, shit. Now even just, like, verdicting away that Enchantress probably doesn't do enough. Whatever this is, it's a lot of mana. Maybe it's just a way to kill me, and I can concede? Hey, it's a way to kill me, so I can concede. True name ain't beating that. I'm not dead yet. Just out of morale and very badly burned. So... Gideon's not going to do much in the face of Doomwake Giant. I guess I'm looking for a way to remove the Enchantress's presence more so than anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and any order this and shuffle. Nope, we got more land though. Oh yeah, like I definitely like watched the Monty Python movies quite a bit. Mostly Holy Grail. Although I really enjoyed Life of Brian and Meaning of Life as well. Yeah, I mean, this card doesn't feel as bad here as it usually does, right? Like, usually I'm playing, like, D&T, and it's like, well, this is unbeatable. Yeah, like, are we really at the point where people haven't seen Rocky anymore? Is there some new-aged Rocky with, like, Fortnite references and stuff in it that the children can watch? Well, so much for Batterskull doing anything. All right, this is a safe concession point. So let's talk about what went wrong, why things went wrong, and what I'd do differently. So I think Palace Jailer is actually just too much endgame, right? So like we have Jace, Venser, Palace Jailer, the equipment package is all the endgame. I don't know that all of this is needed. Like, there were a lot of times where I drew Palace Jailer where I just ended up brainstorming away because, like, it wasn't the right time for Palace Jailer yet, or it wasn't quite the board where I wanted to play it. So, like, conceptually, I really like the idea of Jailer in this shell, but I wonder if it's right. Or, like, so I'm just gonna like start talking through some changes I would make. So I want Venser to be some other early interactive spell. Not necessarily like it doesn't have to be at 1 mana, but just some other interactive spell that's cheaper. Like having more interactive spells works well with Snapcaster. It works well with Jailer. And I think I've just got too much clunk at the top end. Bear with Two Guns really likes Venser. It's certainly a pet card. Number 2, three Tundra and like this Caracas I don't think work really well with the back to basics that we have over here. So like this plan doesn't work with like Caracas, Bounce My Clicks, and Vensers and stuff. And I don't know, the like random utility that Caracas can have sometimes might not be worth the downside of playing with back to basics. So I might be inclined to like cut a Tundra and a Caracas for like a third Plains and maybe another fetch. Something like that. I might want to go down to like 1 Jailer and play a third True Name Nemesis. That card, while not good against combo, I think is conceptually good against like the fair stuff that's running around. In the sideboard, I wanted Baneslayer over this. I think I want a third Surgical Extraction. Maybe over the Pithing Needle and just kind of like hedge away from that. Actually, I wanted some bears. What was I doing before? So this was my old sideboard. And I really liked this sideboard. I ended up playing with it quite a bit. Maybe Canonist isn't the most stellar card right now, so I can see not running these. But I think something approximating this feels pretty good. Alright, now where did this deck list go again? Jailer Blade, there we go. Yeah, so like maybe Celestial Purge is too narrow. So like if I was gonna stick with this sideboard, I might switch this to Baneslayer. I might switch these to Meddling Mages, and then call something like that good. Again, there's a lot of fat here too. Like maybe Gideon isn't super necessary, depending on how much of the fat ends up staying in the main deck. What is the timeout for? What is the Jitte doing in the board? Yeah, maybe the Jitte should be in the main deck. Like, that card's really good. Yeah, this was a donation deck list that was done largely, you know, in the last 5 minutes of my last stream, and it's like, oh, Phil, you might stream tomorrow, but you don't have something queued up? I got something for you. So, some of the choices here are a starting point rather than, like, a refined deck list. So just kind of keep that in mind. And yeah, maybe the Jitte should just be promoted to the main deck, more so than anything else. So those are kind of my thoughts. So I'm going to go ahead and like drop from this league. I think we've kind of seen what there is to see with this this deck list, you know. The Palace Jailer didn't add a lot. It was win more. It was win really hard at a couple of points. Like one us that came with the Pack Rats, for example. But the Palace Jailer might be something that you just want to like play in the sideboard of a more traditional, more finely tuned blue-white deck. As is, I did kind of feel like Awkward Miracles today. You know, when I'm playing Stoneblade decks, I just want to be playing more copies of True Name Nemesis and just like jam that card as aggressively as I can and watch people die to it. So like the list that I was playing before was like 4 Stone Forages, 3 True Names in a relatively similar shell. Oh, one other thing, like the 3 Snapcasters might be better than 4 that I had in this build today. There were definitely times where the abundance of Snapcaster mages that I had was awkward. Catch-all answer like EE wouldn't be bad either. I really liked this deck list when I played it before. You know, it's been a couple of months since I played this, but this felt good. I played something similar to this pre and post banning. How about splashing a bit of black for Kambal? We can always go deeper. We can always do more ridiculous things. All right, so folks, I think I'm going to call it here for the afternoon, and I'm going to do a couple other things with my snow day. I don't really know if I'm going to get another tomorrow, so I'm going to go ahead and call it here. Thank you all for joining me this afternoon. These Tuesday streams don't usually happen, though I will be back to my regularly scheduled streaming tomorrow in all likelihood, unless something changes and I get another snow day. So tomorrow night I will be streaming with Red White Death and Taxes featuring Goblin Crater Maker. So I'm looking forward to that. Conceptually, the card does a lot of things that D&T wants. Like, it's a tutorable piece of removal. It can answer random crap from Emrakul to Grim Monolith to Thought-Knot-Seer and Reality Smasher, while also just like picking off Delvers and stuff. So that might be cool. I'm looking forward to that. So if you like my content, you know, please follow my channel. I'm streaming Legacy 3 or more times a week on average. And if you really are enjoying my content, consider doing something to support the channel. I've been working hard to get better things going on, you know, from updates with Cardboard Live to guest streams. And we're going to have Bryant Cook on, I believe it's next week, to do some tests with me. So I'm going to go ahead and call it here, and I'm going to host someone else who is playing Legacy. I'm going to host a small streamer here and give him a big boost.